Greetings, fans, and welcome again to the massive hit cricket show. Your place for all the World Cup action. Get all the news, all the reviews. Now, today we have a packed show ahead for you. Big news coming out of India. Shimron Hetmyer apparently has not arrived in India as yet. Also, the West Indies lost their warm-up game to Afghanistan today. In a quite, rather underwhelming display there. And also, the first World Cup game for the West Indies will come up this week, this Saturday morning. All right. Now, world Caribbean renowned commentator Andrew Mason earlier broke news about Shimron Hetmyer. Have a listen. All right, looks like we're having some technical difficulties here. All right, my guest with me today, Fazir Mohammed. Faz, how you doing, man?
Not bad at all. Good to be on the show.
All right, awesome. Great to have you again, Faz. Been a while. All right, Faz. Obviously, the big story out there right now is Shimron Hetmyer and him not being in India. You heard the message there from Andrew Mason earlier. What do you make of this, Faz?
Well, it's a bit mystifying because, I suppose when you hear it initially, you say, well, okay, well, what is Hetmyer up to this time? Because when the West Indies were going to Australia in 2022, he twice missed flights out of Guyana. And then eventually, I think Cricket West Indies just gave up on him being part of the squad. But this time around, though, from what we understand, and usually Andrew Mason is right on the ball because he's got his contacts within Cricket West Indies and so on. It seems to be a visa issue, which is puzzling because there are 5 other Guyanese in the squad for the T20 World Cup. They are in India. Hetmyer goes to India at least once every year for the IPL and no doubt for some other commitments as well. So unless there's something untoward with his documentation or something that he is in some way negligent in relation to getting a visa, it's a bit confusing to understand why he would be in South Africa still when the entire squad, including the other 5 Guyanese, are in India.
Yeah, definitely shocking. And let's just go to Andrew Mason just to hear exactly what Andrew Mason had to say about this issue.
Many would have expected all members of the West Indies team by now would have arrived in India preparing for the T20 World Cup. Not so. It's my understanding that Shimron Hetmyer, the hefty left-hander from Guyana, is stuck in South Africa because his visa has not been sorted. Cricket West Indies is saying the matter will be dealt with soonest. Surely not good enough, as the West Indies team will play against Scotland on February the 7th.
No, Faz, very interesting stuff there. But many would say it had to be Shimron Hetmyer. And obviously, with all the issues he's had before, would you really blame Caribbean fans for thinking somewhere along the line, perhaps Shimron Hetmyer has done something again?
Well, I wouldn't blame them, but we have to be fair. It's all well and good for the average person to be saying, okay, here goes Hetmyer again, up to something. But if we are really serious about being balanced and presenting things as best as we can, then we either have to get confirmation that it's something that he's negligent with, or go by what we're hearing officially. But again, it just sounds a bit odd that it would be a visa issue involving Hetmyer based on what we're hearing. And there are 5 other Guyanese. And again, it might be an assumption that they all have Guyanese passports. Some may have US passports. You never know. But once more, the fact that everyone else is there except Hetmyer will obviously raise questions. And yes, I will accept that people will be skeptical as to the official line. But before anyone wants to heap condemnation on Shimron Hetmyer based on previous issues, I think we need to get some more detail.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the West Indies Cricket Board has said, the issue will be sorted soon. So we're about 72 hours away from the first game. So it is, hopefully Shimron will get there sometime before the weekend.
Well, it being sorted soon is not good enough.
Yeah,
The fact is, he should be there already. He should have arrived as part of the squad. So papering it over by saying he'll be there soon, he's going to arrive in time, in good time for the first match. All of that doesn't really deal with the fundamental issue of the operational issues. And you talk about Hetmyer. We can highlight numerous instances over the years where players haven't arrived on time, where players have not been there when they should be there, that their paperwork has eventually sorted out. I mean, isn't there an operations department in Cricket West Indies? Isn't there a chief operating officer that would ensure that things like this are sorted out in good time? These things continue to crop up. And just simply saying that it's going to be sorted out in good time is not good enough. But again, this is an environment where there's no real accountability. There's no real accountability as to Cricket West Indies, what they do or don't do. And as a result, this is how it happens.
yeah, 100% verify here, and I'm with you. This is certainly not good enough. And of course, the West Indies would have played in their first warm-up game today against Afghanistan. Obviously, on the back of all of this happening in the background, with Shimron Hetmyer not being there, West Indies not necessarily being able to carry out maybe some plans that would have gone into India with going into this game. Now, the West Indies Faz lost this game very, very quite comfortably to Afghanistan. It would be the third defeat to Afghanistan in 4 tries within the last 2 to 3 weeks. What do you make of the performance against Afghanistan? The West Indies, obviously, Afghanistan batted first, and they scored 182 with Ibrahim getting 51. And and the West Indies getting to 159 for 7 with Matthew Ford at the end there scoring 52. The West Indies lost 4 wickets in the power play. Faz, once again, a story of you lose a power play, you lose a match very, very easily. But we've seen this over and over again.
Yes, we have. And as you mentioned correctly, I mean, the West Indies lost to Afghanistan 2-1, lost to South Africa 2-1, lose to Afghanistan again. I mean, it's repetitive. So yes, we could probably highlight individual issues with each match, but yet again, the West Indies fail to be inconsistent, to be consistent enough to really be competitive. So it obviously will leave many wondering how will the West Indies fare when the actual tournament proper gets underway on Saturday and the West Indies face Scotland. And for those who might have been thinking, well, okay, at least it's not Bangladesh. Scotland have beaten the West Indies twice in World Cup cricket. In the 2022 World Cup, in the qualifying stage, they beat the West Indies comfortably, and the West Indies couldn't advance to the main draw of the tournament. And then, of course, in 2023, Scotland knocked the West Indies out of qualifying for the 2023 World Cup. So, again, anyone thinking that, at least it's only Scotland could be in for a surprise on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But what does this mean for the West Indies? Obviously, confidence is a huge thing going into the World Cup. And with the West Indies having lost this game quite comfortably today, do you think this will affect the confidence of the team heading into the main tournament?
It probably will, but I think one of the things about the Caribbean team and players, they generally can lift themselves, their spirits very quickly. Whether they can be consistent is another story. I don't think they're necessarily going to be down on themselves or depressed because they lost again to Afghanistan. I think the bigger issue is that the West Indies, even in the best of times these days, can't be consistent. As you mentioned, losing 4 wickets in the power play. And yet Matthew Ford fires a half century and West Indies get a bit closer, and then people will say, well, if only this had happened, if only that had happened. Well, West Indies fans have found themselves saying if only for a long, long time. And therefore, the bigger issue isn't so much Hetmyer not being there, isn't so much losing 4 wickets in the power play. These are just symptoms of the continuing inconsistencies that bedevil West Indies cricket.
Yeah, Now, Faz, I didn't get a chance to get your take on the West Indies squad, obviously going into this tournament. But were there any real surprises for you in terms of this squad and that was released by the West Indies cricket board?
Not really. I mean, I know there's a lot of noise about Johnson Charles in the squad and Evan Lewis not being in it, but I mean, to me, it's six of one, half a dozen of the other. Because yes, Evan Lewis might give you a spectacular innings, but he's a liability in the field.
Mm.
Johnson Charles is a bits and pieces sort of performer. Darren Sammy has made the point that he wants a reserve keeper. I don't know if a reserve keeper is that essential in such a short tournament. And of course, people saying all sorts of things with Windward Islands connections, which again, the whole issue of insularity and parochialism, we can't get away from it. But if we really think about it, the issue isn't so much the 15 individuals selected or the one or two not selected. The issue is that the West Indies spend more time losing than winning, whichever 11 goes out onto the field.
Absolutely. And to just add to your point there, Faz, about it being a short tournament, the fact is our wicketkeeper is Captain Shea Hope, and he's a fairly fit, one of the fitter players around who doesn't get injured very often. You look at a team like Australia, they have one wicketkeeper going in, they have Josh Inglis, and that's it. Their backup wicketkeeper will be Glenn Maxwell if something happens. I'm pretty sure, I mean, Johnson Charles is not a special wicketkeeper, right? I'm sure you'll agree. So I'm pretty sure any of those batsmen who can keep a bit could have been that backup person just in case something happened.
That's true, and but as I said, I mean, the coach has given his justification. We can disagree with it. We can say that there's some ulterior motive to it, but this is the 15, and at the end of the day, we have to see if these 15 players or the 11 who go out on the field on Saturday morning, our time against Scotland, if they're able to get their act together, because we may think the West Indies should be able to qualify from that grouping, but you've got a team like Nepal who like Scotland, would love to take down the West Indies, would love to get an opportunity to really embarrass the West Indies, and these are teams that are hungry for success. So the West Indies cannot afford to be complacent, whether Johnson Charles or no Johnson Charles. If he sits on the bench for all the matches, the important thing is that the West Indies 11 on the field, that they perform to the level that is expected of them.
Would it be fair to say you're very confident that the West Indies will make it through to the Super 8 stage? And with that, which team would be the biggest threat to the West Indies?
No, I'm not very confident. I'm not very confident at all. Because, again, you're talking about the West Indies. On paper, the West Indies should be able to make it to the next round. But as I said before, we've seen what can happen. In 2022, Nicholas Pooran as captain. The West Indies were in the qualifying phase for that tournament, lost to Scotland, won against Zimbabwe, lost to Ireland, couldn't get into the main draw, couldn't even make the main draw of the T20 World Cup. The year before, in defense of the 2016 title, the West Indies, with all the big names, Karen Pollard, Dwayne Bravo, Sunil Narayan, Chris Gale, Andre Russell, finished second to last in their grouping. So that might seem like ancient to a lot of people, but the fact is that it's been going on for a long time, these inconsistent performances. So if the West Indies aren't up for the challenge with that opening game against Scotland, if they take Nepal lightly, if, for example, they take Italy lightly, because they'll say, well, Italy can't even qualify for a football World Cup, far less qualify for a cricket World Cup. I mean, why should we even be worried? The fact is that these teams comprise players who are desperate for success, who want to make their mark, who are hungry, not just to represent their nations, but they also want to represent themselves and make some sort of statement in a world tournament. So that's why I'm saying, if the West Indies go into it with any sort of complacency, and if there is evidence of complacency, they should all pack up and go home. Because the evidence suggests that the West Indies cannot afford to be complacent against anyone, given our track record, both in the distant past and the very recent past.
No, 100%. And you're right about that 2021 team. I mean, most of those players are really past their sort of sell by date. But Coach Darren Sammy Faz has actually come out in the media and said he feels as if something very special is about to happen this World Cup. What is he talking about?
I would like to know, because let's compare to Darren Sammy as well. He can't say that, well, it's going to be a struggle. I think we've got a lot of work to do. I'm disappointed with some of the performances over the last 2 weeks in Dubai and then in South Africa. He's got to be positive. And I think he's trying his best to find things, talking about the 2016 environment when it was the West Indies team against the world, which isn't correct. The West Indies team were considered one of the favorites to lift that title. The challenges they faced were with the administration of Cricket West Indies, and indeed comments made of them being short on brains and so on, and they took that as a motivation. So they felt that they were being slighted by that. But anybody saying no 10 years back that the West Indies were up against it for the 2016 World Cup is really being convenient with the truth. The fact of the matter is the West Indies were always considered one of the teams likely to lift the title, even though it came down to a spectacular final over involving Carlos Brathwaite. So yes, Sammy, with his experience as a winning captain, a T20 World Cup winning captain of 2012 and 2016, he's trying to draw on that. He's saying he feels something special is going to happen. But Sammy has been positive with going into every single tournament, every single series, every single match. And then when the worst happens, or something less than the worst happens, he tries to put a positive spin on it, because he's a coach. What can he do? He can only say something that is going to either motivate the team or drum up some interest among the fans. But the reality is that the West Indies are in a situation where, as we have been for a long, long time, that there's always the fear that while you hope for the best, the worst can transpire.
Absolutely. All right, fans, welcome to this live telecast of World Cup action, pre-World Cup action, Massive Hit Cricket, your place to be for all the World Cup news, all the updates. Cricket Lover here has said, obviously he's gotten some inside information. Hetmyer is on his way to India or already in India. Some admin issues. I don't know where you're getting that information from, Cricket Lover, but all right. Now, Faz, let's switch gears here a bit, and let's take a look at Pakistan, the Pakistan-India conundrum. And Pakistan, of course, has decided that they will boycott the match versus India, which is considered the biggest match of the World Cup. Every World Cup tournament, Pakistan and India somehow end up in the same group of what is supposed to be a draw, right? A random draw. But it so happens that Pakistan and India is always in the same group. Now, we saw earlier on, obviously, Bangladesh would have been kicked out, and they were supported by Pakistan. Now, Pakistan has taken a stance, and they have said, we are not going to play against India. Is this just lip service, and how is this going to affect the wider world game, Faz?
There are many different things in what you've said there. You talk about, for example, for some reason, in what should be a draw, India and Pakistan are always in the same group. England and Australia are always in the same group as well. International cricket is rigged. It's as simple as that. It's because we have been brought up with this nonsense about good behavior and gentleman's game and all that foolishness. We tend to think that cricket is somehow above the low-level behavior that you see in other sports or other activities. Well, cricket is actually worse, because cricket is fixed to make money. That is why India and Pakistan are always in the same preliminary group. It's about television revenue. That's why England and Australia are always in the same preliminary group. It's about television revenue. It has nothing to do with fairness of competition. It has nothing to do with luck of the draw. It has nothing to do with the essence of what a sporting contest is all about, the favorite against the underdog and all that sort of thing. It's basically about making money. As to the issue about what Pakistan are doing, whether they're actually going to boycott the match, and what Bangladesh have done, well, we have to wait and see. Pakistan are still maintaining that they're not going to play. We'll have to wait and see. The ICC have issued a statement. It just reinforces how hypocritical the ICC is, talking about, the issues of fairness and across the board and so on. Yet, we don't have to look far. You just look to last year. India were involved in the Champions Trophy outside of the host country. The tournament was hosted by Pakistan. India played all their matches in Dubai, including the final, and there was no talk then by the ICC about not following the rules and the regulations and so on. It's because India are the giants of the game, playing wise, and more importantly, economically. So they can throw their weight around, they can get what they want. The ICC is just a glorified umbrella. They go there to beg for favors from India, and that's how it is. So all of and let's again remember, Bangladesh pulled out because they felt that there were some political issues at play when Mustafizur Rahman was taken out of his Kolkata Knight Riders contract under instruction from the Indian government to the BCCI. So there was politics at play from the Indian side of things. The Bangladeshis responded by saying, look, we are not going to India because we don't feel our players will be safe and whatever. That was rubbished by the ICC. They were voted out 10-2. Of course, the West Indies, as per usual, the kings of the begging bowl, did what was required of them to actually vote on the side of India and on to get Bangladesh out. Scotland are in. So Pakistan are saying that they're going to show solidarity with their Bangladeshi brothers. Interestingly, Bangladesh fought a war of independence to be free of Pakistan because they were formerly East Pakistan, which became Bangladesh via a war of independence in 1971. Now they are their distant brothers. But again, the point is that all of this merely reflects the hypocrisy that is international cricket. This joke that is perpetuated, that this is somehow this noble game, this game of fairness. It's not so. It's anything but. It's a game that is ruled by money. And at the end of the day, whoever, there's a familiar phrase and saying we use in Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know if it's popular in the rest of the Caribbean, who has more corn, feed more fowl. So basically, the Indians are the one with all the corn, and all the fowls, including the West Indies, are feeding at the feet of India. And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, fans, if you're just joining, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. Go ahead and hit that like button. Faz, this particular game. Well, let's even go back to 1996. 1996, the West Indies and Australia both decided not to play against Sri Lanka. Bangladesh was essentially kicked out of this World Cup without a second thought. Now that it's India versus Pakistan, a game that generates a significant portion of the revenue for this particular tournament. Now it's a huge issue. Is it solely about money, Faz, though, or is there something else?
Well, there's something else as far as the politics is concerned. This is an ideological thing. India, let's not pretend that that is not the issue. But what I was responding to was the money side of it and why India and Pakistan are always grouped together. Why it's always rigged that India and Pakistan are always together. But to the point of why there is this constant friction, it's ideological, because you look at the history of the two nations, because they were both colonized by the British, and you have to give the British, the French, the Belgians, the Germans, the Spanish credit for creating chaos in much of the world and then cutting and running as they did in Afghanistan just the other day and trying to pretend that this is the problem of brown and black people and they have nothing to do with it. They have created these things and then try to distance themselves from it. But the issue of the partition in 1947, the creation of the state of India and the state of Pakistan, and the hundreds and thousands and millions who were displaced and who died. It's one of the great tragedies that we in our part of the world know almost nothing about, for the simple reason that we have been fed a white European narrative, which makes these things seem as irrelevant. There are more people who died and displaced than in all of the conflicts that we know of in our part of the world in that one event, the partition. It created India, a secular state, but predominantly Hindu, and then the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. And then there's the contested border of Kashmir. And that has been going on for more than 70 years. So it's an ideological duel of religious belief. It's not so much a cricketing duel because India wiped the floor with Pakistan every time now. It's not so much of a competition. But the reason there is so much interest and so much attention and so much anxiety and revenue and eyeballs generated by this fixture is because of that history of that ideological confrontation between India and Pakistan.
Yeah. Now, Faz, if this game does not go ahead, and obviously we've heard all the threats, or at least perceived threats, how will this affect the wider game? If this, obviously, if this revenue doesn't come in, is it going to affect the West Indies, Sri Lanka, all of these other teams and their revenue?
Well, it may do so, but India is still there. India will probably say, look, Pakistan playing us is not no big deal. In fact, there have been some reports where former players have said, look, Pakistan boycotting is probably a favor to them because they'll be embarrassed by India once again. The revenue might take a hit. But I doubt it'll be something to a significant level where it's going to jeopardize the entire tournament. In fact, we'll have to wait and see if Pakistan will stick to their word and not play the match when it comes up on February the 15th. We'll just have to wait and see. But as to the bigger issue, what puzzles me and really is bewildering to me is that everyone I speak to, Caribbean people as well, have no problem with an Ashes series of 5 test matches because they believe it is the ultimate. But they also have no problem with West Indies just getting 2 test matches, or South Africa, the world test champions, going to India and getting just 2 test matches. And when you talk to them about it, brown people just like me, black people just like you, they say, well, it's the Ashes. And that to me is the power of colonialism, that without even looking at the merits, without even looking at the fairness, without even looking at what is pretending to be a level playing field, which is the world of sport, we have happily conceded to our second-class status. And that's why people are worrying about, is this going to hurt West Indies' revenue? Is this going to hurt Sri Lanka's revenue? Why don't some of these other boards grow a spine or some testicles or some ovaries if they can get it together and actually say, maybe we should try. It might be at a lower level. It may not have much revenue. We might get laughed at and so on. But what's wrong with standing your ground? What's wrong with saying, let's try and do the right thing for the good of the game and the real game? And someone said, well, that's foolishness. Many people have told me that. So that you're just talking nonsense. That is never going to fly because money talks and BS like mine walks. And I accept that. But as I said, if you're prepared to accept that there's a first class on the plane, in the plane of world cricket, and that everybody else is an economy, and only India and England and Australia are allowed in first class, and you are happy with that, then don't complain.
No, obviously, Faz, India, they're flexing their muscle. They've been doing it for a while. I mean, India will say the English, when they were in power, perhaps, were the same.
The point, sorry to cut across you.
Yeah.
The Indians are doing exactly what in Australia and England did for decades. The difference is the Indians are brown like us. So we feel offended that these low-class brown people, and people might be offended by my reference, but this is how people speak. How could these brown people do this to us? But they're happy to be abused by England and Australia all these years. They have no problem with that. But yet, my hope for India's growth and dominance of the game economically was that they would show actually some greater worldliness and be more measured in their management and their throwing their weight around. What they have done is said, well, okay, you've wiped us, you've wiped the floor with us for 70 years. Now we're going to wipe the floor with everybody else.
Yeah. Certainly, the sport that we say is a global game. It's showing that it's anything but. I mean, we're just not seeing that expansion. Is there any chance, Faz, of all of these other smaller nations really coming together in solidarity and saying, you know what, India, you can stay over there, play against yours? Is there any chance of this ever happening?
No chance whatsoever. Because, as I said before, money talks, my kind of BS just walks. Because people will say, you You go take your principles and go and sit down outside there. We have to sustain the game. We have to sustain our players. We have to provide revenue for our players. We have to find ways to really lift our game, because for anyone who's been watching West Indies cricket, if you've been enduring the women's T20 and the women's regional Super 50 over the last 3 weeks or so, the standard is lower than abysmal.
Oh yeah.
These are examples of where the game needs some sort of injection, not just revenue, but leadership, but standards of excellence. And of course, Cricket West Indies will argue, you want us to stand our ground and get no money from the BCCI and go bankrupt? Then what happens? And I'm sure every other board is going to say exactly the same thing.
Yeah. All right. Fans, if you're just joining, news broke today. News from Andrew Mason, the Caribbean renowned commentator, regarding Shimron Hetmyer.
Many would have expected all members of the West Indies team by now would have arrived in India preparing for the T20 World Cup. Not so. It's my understanding that Shimron Hetmyer, the hefty left-hander from Ghana, is stuck in South Africa because his visa has not been sorted. Cricket West Indies is saying the matter will be dealt with soonest. Surely not good enough, as the West Indies team will play against Scotland on February the 7th.
Yeah, Faz, as Andrew Mason said there, and as you and I have agreed, surely not good enough. But again, fans, Faz, thank you for being here with us today. It was truly great to have you with us once again, and hopefully we'll have you a lot more for this World Cup coverage.
We'll see how it goes. Thanks very much.
Alrighty, so fans, there again, you've been watching the massive hit cricket show, your place for all World Cup action. See you soon.